Welcome to Unplanned and Untold, a podcast that dives into the real-life, unexpected twists of facing an unplanned pregnancy in college. Join us as we listen to the unplanned and untold stories of those who have overcome the odds in order to achieve their goals. Welcome back to another episode of Unplanned and Untold. I'm your host, Caitlin Willing, and today's guest is the first of her kind. She is a recent graduate from the University of Alabama and is currently an ER nurse at Southeast Health. She's a very unique podcast guest because Emery actually was one of the first student moms we got to connect with on Alabama's campus, and she's been extremely instrumental in helping baby steps as we try to open our doors in Tuscaloosa. So without further ado, I'd love to welcome to the podcast Emery Jones.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be talking with you today.
I'm so excited. I have been looking forward to your interview for quite some time now because you have such a special story. And it's very unique because you are like one of the the most fresh graduates out of school that has navigated, almost 4 years of college without help. Like you really have done a lot of this on your own, and you have helped us kind of get an inside view on Alabama's campus about why this is so necessary.
Definitely. Yeah. Fresh out of it.
Yes. Take me back to why you chose Alabama. We're Auburn people. And I will refrain from any of my Auburn or Alabama jokes, but what drew you to Alabama?
This is going to sound ridiculous, but I came from a house divided. So I grew up saying Roll Eagle, War Tide.
Stop it. Are you serious?
Yes. And I still say that. If they're not playing each other, that's fine with me. So then when it came time to choose a school, so my dad was Auburn, mom was Alabama. My brother went to Auburn. Okay. My sister was like, I don't care. I'm going to go to Troy over here.
Oh my God.
And I was like, well, that was Troy, Auburn. I'll just go to Alabama. That's really how it happened. So I just kind of was like, let's just even it out. And that's how I ended up at Alabama.
What a fun household. I cannot imagine what it's like on Iron Bowl weekends with y'all.
Oh, so fun.
Oh,
Lots of rivalry.
Oh my gosh. And it's hard to explain to people. I live in Arizona now, and they don't really understand college football the way that it like pumps through our blood in the South. It's a big deal where we come from.
Yes, it is a part of the South. Like people don't understand unless they've experienced it.
Truly. I mean, I'm really sad to express this, but I have lost friends over like the divide before.
That's terrible.
But we've reconnected, but there's friction there, especially when it comes to the dynasty that y'all have left.
100%.
But now Nick Saban's not there anymore. So I'm very curious to see what y'all's future is going to hold.
I left at the right time. I left at the best time.
You left on top. You really did.
I did. So I don't know what's going to happen, but roll tide always.
Oh my gosh, my ears. Oh, okay. So you decided to go to Alabama, and what did you end up majoring in?
So I started as a communicative disorders major because I wanted to be a pediatric audiologist.
Okay.
And then I switched to nursing for 3 weeks, and then I went back to audiology.
Wow.
And then it wasn't until after Arlo, which is my son, was born, that I switched to nursing for good.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's crazy because although Arlo was unexpected,
right,
if I hadn't had him when I did, I don't think I would be in my calling right now.
Isn't that wild?
Because it's insane because I had the most incredible nurse that pretty much delivered him for the most part. And she was so encouraging and empowering and non-judgmental of our ages.
Yes.
And after that, I was like, I have to be a nurse. I have to be this person for other people. So I called the next day to my school, in the hospital, and I was like, I'm switching my major.
Oh my gosh. She literally made a forever impression on your life.
She did. So she's my why. She actually graduated with her bachelor's at the University of Alabama last year, and I got to see her graduate with her BSN.
Oh my God.
That was really cool.
I feel like she's forever going to get a Christmas card from your family.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. In the graduation announcement, all of it. So shout out to Melanie. I love her.
Oh my gosh, Melanie, we love you. We love nurses that are like you because the same girl, like when I had my firstborn in college, I was
Mhm.
scared. You know, you put a lot of that judgment on yourself thinking, I'm walking in here, I'm not married. At least in my case, I was not married and I'm young and I just feel like they're going to treat
Mhm.
me differently. But there was that one nurse in my story too, and she was up with me like she took that extra time
Yes.
and was that
Yeah.
extra like human touch that I needed. Cause I mean, we were
Right.
terrified. I don't know about you, but I was like, I don't know what the heck's
Yes.
going on. And trying to navigate
No.
this so young is scary.
Yes. Yeah. You feel unprepared. You a little bit inadequate showing up to the hospital as like a
Right.
teenager,
Yes.
basically.
Oh my
So the
gosh.
not having that judgment and then having her encourage me as a mom at such a young age is always going to be an impression on my life. So
Oh my gosh. I love that so
yeah.
much. So you got pregnant with Arlo pretty darn soon in your college experience. So take me back. What
Yes.
year were you a freshman?
I was a freshman and it was my second semester. So we were in the
Stop.
spring.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh. So you just barely were getting adjusted to college life.
Right.
Oh
Right.
my word. So how did you realize you were pregnant? What made you think, oh my gosh, this could be happening to me?
It was just like I don't know if I don't want to go too TMI on here, so there's editing.
Yeah, there's
But
editing, but let me tell you, we go off the rails. I think our listeners at this point know we
okay.
we cover all topics.
Okay. So for me, periods are not a thing that I is a red flag for me.
Okay. Okay.
They've always been irregular, so I did
Gotcha.
not have that to go off of.
Right.
But it was quite literally, I don't know, I was probably like 6 or 7 weeks pregnant at the time. And so that was not, again, there was not like a missed period because that's not a thing
Right.
for me as much. But I was like, it's weird. I was like, I just feel it. I was like, I had
Yeah.
no symptoms. I was not sick, nothing. I was like, I feel like there's something in my stomach,
Oh my
which sounds
word.
crazy. And I put off taking a test for like a week. I was like,
Okay.
no, I'm not going to do it. No, it's fine. And then finally, I was like, okay, I'll just do it. And what do you know?
So did you go to the store and purchase a test, a pregnancy test?
Yes, I
Oh
did.
my gosh.
Yeah,
Do
went
you
back to
remember
my
that day?
dorm.
And you went back to your
Yes.
dorm. Oh my
Yes. And I made Isaiah, which is now my husband. I made him like come with me and I was like, all right, we're in this together, whatever this may
Oh,
be. So, yep, found out in the dorm room.
wow. How long had you and Isaiah been together for?
We had been together since the spring of 2017, and that was
Okay.
2019. So 2 years.
Okay. Okay. So you had a
Yes.
pretty stable, solid relationship going into this
Yeah.
shocking news.
Yes. Gratefully, I did.
Oh my gosh. So after you had that positive pregnancy test in the dorm, do you go seek, medical help or what did the next step look like for you?
Yeah, so I was so unaware of what to do, and mostly because of insurance, because I knew it was going to cost
Mm,
money, and I wasn't sure being on my parents' insurance, how the heck do I do this
yep.
when they don't even know I'm pregnant yet?
Yep.
So instead, we ended up going to a place in Tuscaloosa, which is now, I think, the New Hope Women's Center. It used to be Choices Pregnancy Center, but
Gotcha.
they are a fabulous resource that I was so grateful for.
Mm,
And went there. They do like a confirmation ultrasound. Then you can do free parenting classes, build up points, and shop in the baby shop, and just have
mm.
that support. So we ended up going there. I had no idea where else to go, and I'm grateful that we did. So when we found out, I think we were at that appointment, we were 9 weeks pregnant.
Wow.
So that's when we started doing the classes. Isaiah would drive up from Dothan. We'd go to a class and then he'd drive back home. So that was
Wow.
the first steps for us.
Yeah, and that's a piece of this puzzle a lot of people don't talk about is where to get prenatal care or even to confirm that you're pregnant because
Hmm.
in college we are on our parents' insurance and
Hmm.
same as you, like scared they're going to get a bill in the mail
Yeah.
or, an OBGYN or OB appointment. I guess you could pass it off either way. But these pregnancy resource centers, they don't charge, insurance. They don't
Mm-mm.
charge anything. It's at no cost.
No.
So it's almost kind of like that safety net of let's figure out what's going on here.
Hmm.
And at no cost, it really takes that pressure off of feeling like you've got to tell your parents immediately what's going on.
Exactly. Exactly. There were other adults that were there to just guide us, not to replace like the role parents
For
have, none of
sure.
that, but just to guide you in this new
Yes.
kind of scary transition.
Yeah. So how
So,
long did it take for you to open up to your parents about you being pregnant? I mean, I'm assuming y'all wanted
mm,
to parent 100% off the bat. Is that, or did you
yes.
teeter on a decision?
No, 100% we wanted to parent.
Okay.
Let me think. I got to do some math here.
You're good.
I think so. We found out March. I'll make this more concise when I can think about it. Hold on. February, March, April. I think we had known for roughly a month or so before
Okay.
I told my parents.
Okay.
And I told them right before I was moving back home for the summer.
Oh, wow. So you're fixing to literally live in the house after telling them.
Yeah.
Were you nervous to tell them? Had y'all ever talked about if you had gotten pregnant, out of wedlock
Yeah.
before? What did that look like?
Yeah, but basically it was just like you don't do that. You
Okay.
don't get pregnant out of wedlock. Like you don't do the things to get pregnant out of wedlock.
Hmm.
I was raised like knowing that you don't do that. And I mean like no one else in my family had gotten pregnant out of wedlock.
Right.
So I was extremely terrified. And for a long time I was like, let me just tell them after I move back. And then I was like, let me tell them when I have a 4 hour distance in between
Right.
us. I think the way I ended up doing it was a very poor way to do it now that I think about it.
Is there a
But
right way though? I've heard all the ways on this podcast, and I just feel like
hon-
there's no right way.
honestly, I don't think there's a right way. I think either way, it's just
Shocking.
a crash and burn scenario until it's not.
Exactly.
So it was
So how did you tell them?
well, I knew that they at the beginning were not going to be too pleased.
Sure.
And I don't know why I thought this was a good idea. I just decided to go all out and send like a baby package. So I go to Walmart and get this like wooden box and I put a poem in it about becoming
Oh,
grandparents, a picture of the ultrasound
oh,
passies,
oh.
socks, and I was like, you're gonna need to keep these for my mom because she's gonna definitely forget my socks at their house. I wrote this whole letter and packaged it up, put tape on it. I mean, it was so cute.
Oh,
It sent it off.
right.
And in hindsight, I'm like, that was a very bad decision to send all this baby stuff when they don't even know that there's a baby. So
I
looking
can.
back, I'm like, oh, I kind of wish I just called them and been
Right.
like, okay, here's what. But
Yeah. Yeah.
again, I was 18 and you're just doing the best you can. And that was
Yes.
my best at the time.
Oh my gosh. And it was thoughtful. Like you thought through all of
Oh
that.
yeah. I mean, I put a lot of time into that, but
But, receiving that news, no matter how you receive it as a parent, I feel like is traumatic and it's shocking and
yes.
it's world changing for everybody
Yes.
who's involved. And on the other
Yeah.
side of things, as a mom, I can only imagine, how shocking that could be finding
Right.
out, especially you're 18. You were so, I mean, not that 2 years would have made any difference, but I mean, you were fresh out of
Yeah.
college.
Yes. And in hindsight, I can now see like why you don't want that for your children
Right.
because it is forever life changing.
Correct.
I can understand the point of view of your parents think that you're going to have this college experience
Yep.
and especially being at my mom's alma mater.
Right.
um so I can now in hindsight I like you just don't imagine that for your child starting their
Right.
college career trying to get their dreams taken off. So I understand it a little bit more now, like the reaction and hesitation than I did 4 years ago.
Yeah, everything kind of plays out over time. You realize you grow. They say that you gain wisdom with age, and that's true because you go through a lot
Yes.
of different situations and learn how to handle them and navigate them in different ways. So I can
Yes.
totally relate to that. So
Yes.
when you move home, are they on board? Are they supportive? Are you still going to school? What does that look like?
Yeah, so it was summer, so I had the summer off.
Okay.
And they were on board to support and love on me, but just not, it was a hard balance. It was
Sure.
like, love you, but oh my gosh, what is happening?
Yep.
So there was a lot of tension for a while.
Absolutely.
There was a lot of really difficult conversations with all
Mhm.
four of us, my parents and Isaiah and I. Um, so that was really hard to navigate, especially since I didn't know what the fall would look like when it was expected that I was going to go back to Alabama.
Right.
And I was like, no, I think I'm going to stay in Dothan for a little bit. And
Right.
I don't know, it was a lot of tension. So it was hard to navigate that as a
Absolutely.
family.
Especially because, you found freedom and you're living in college, in your dorm, and now you're back and now you're married. You're
Hmm.
not married yet, but you're thinking about
Right.
possibly getting married and have a baby on the
Right.
way. And where did their thought process land about y'all getting married before the baby came?
I think that the concern was not wanting to rush into something just because there's a baby, which
Right.
I understand that. However, Isaiah and I were very much so like, we are in love, we are ready to take
Oh,
this on as a team.
yeah.
So also I would like to say we have talked about this. Isaiah and I also thought we were grown at
Right.
18, 19 years old. I mean, I thought I had things figured out. I thought the
Right.
world was like my oyster.
Right.
And we'll talk about it now and be like, we were so naive. Like, we were so naive just
Yeah.
at that point. And so you definitely learn as you go with age. But we were
Yes.
absolutely clueless and thought that we just had everything handled.
Yep.
But as far as like the marriage thing, they definitely didn't want me to rush into something just because there was a baby.
Right.
Especially if maybe later on it would end in a divorce for us. They just wanted me to avoid that.
Yep.
But we were pretty adamant that we wanted to make it work, that we were going to raise this baby together, that we wanted to get married and all share the last name. So that's what we did.
Oh, so at what time frame were you going into your sophomore year? Was it before Arlo was born?
Yes. So Arlo was due in November and we got married in July
Oh,
with
so
about
sweet.
3 days notice to our
Oh
friends and
my,
family.
in in a typical Emery fashion, I feel like this is
Yeah. It was like, guess what? This is happening. Haha. I hope you can come. So
we hope
basically,
you can attend our
I hope
wedding.
yeah. And we had some wonderful people at our church that were like, we will
Yeah.
make this happen for you. So it
Oh,
ended up being, for the circumstance, it ended up being as good as it could have been. I mean, it was pretty a beautiful ceremony. And we went out to TGI Fridays with all of our friends afterwards.
oh,
My mom got me a bouquet made. So,
oh,
and my dad was able to like hand me off. And so it ended up being really sweet. There was just enough people to like make a circle around us. So there was
oh
no
my
like sitting in pews.
gosh.
We just said everyone just stand around us.
So
So it
sweet.
was beautiful, but we do plan. I told him, I said at our 10-year anniversary,
Yes.
I want like the dream wedding. Like I want to pick out the white
Yes.
dress. I want all of our
Yes.
babies in the front. Like
Yes.
I still want to do it all. So that is the plan.
You need
But
to truly. It's
yes,
I have said that for so many years. I want the experience. Like
yeah,
Will and I
yeah,
got married on a whim as well, and my son was 3 months old, and
yeah,
I look back and I'm like, it is beautiful and it is a piece of my story. But I
yes.
would love to get a dress that wasn't from like the Dillard's rack, the white dress on the rack at Dillard's.
I got mine at Ross.
See?
I think it was like $10.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
exactly. Oh my gosh. And
yeah,
granted, same as your story, people from our church stepped up and were like, we want to help. And it was a beautiful, and I'm
yeah.
so grateful because we literally were going to get married in a courthouse. But
Yes,
there's still a piece of me that wants that real
yes,
full wedding that you dream of
and you
since your
should.
child.
That's exactly, and I think that for my parents too. I can see after the fact. I'm like, it's not only me that was always imagining my wedding
Right.
day. It was my parents, and I'm also the baby of the
Yes.
family. So with the baby
Yes.
of the family being like all of this happening to me was a little unique too. But
Yep.
I'm like, I mean, they also imagine like my wedding day, and my mom, I'm sure she imagined like zipping me up in my gown, and I know
Right.
my dad imagined walking me down the aisle. So I know that like that for them too. Like it wasn't quite what they thought was going to happen. But
Right.
mom and dad, we're going to have the wedding at 10 years and you can do all the things with me.
There
So,
you go. What a compromise.
yes.
So fast forward, we kind of talk about you having Arlo and wanting to change your major to nursing.
Mhm.
And you're having to raise him, as a student parent on campus.
Right.
Walk me through, what adversities did you face? Was there any kind of
Yeah.
stigma or things that you will probably never forget because you were a student parent on campus?
hmm Luckily, I didn't face any backlash from anybody. So that was nice, like no judgment.
Yeah.
However, I think the biggest thing that stuck out to me is the isolation. So
Mm,
after we left Dothan, when Arlo was about 9 months old, we moved to Birmingham. I figured I was going to just go to UAB, but I did not like the campus. So I said, Arlo and I are just going to commute to Tuscaloosa. So that's what we did for 2 years. We commuted 2 hours a day.
Oh my
He
God.
went to daycare up there. And then I would either go to class or go study. And I remember walking around because I breastfed him up until he was 13 months old. And I was
Wow.
very stubborn about that. Like I
Yeah.
was like, he will be breastfed. So
Yeah.
I just remember like in the fall that year of 2020, walking around campus and I had my backpack, a pumping bag, a cooler for the milk, and then
Oh
my
my gosh.
lunchbox.
Oh
Like
my
I'm like,
gosh. You're like a camel. Like you got
yeah,
all the things.
all the things. And I would go to class and then go to the library, go to the nursing mother's room, pump, put it in my cooler, go to class, go to the car, pump. I mean, I was just very, and I was like, I'm the only one doing this. Like, no one else does this. Like,
Right.
how old was I at the time? 19, 20 at the time. I was like
Wow.
20 years old, and like, no one gets this. And I
Yep.
think it was just like the isolation is the biggest thing that stuck out to me because I just thought like no one else on this campus has kids, like, or they
Right.
don't talk about it. Where are they? I don't know. So,
Right. So that led you to trying to find more students like you.
right.
So
Yes.
how did you think that you could find? I mean, surely you thought there's got to be somebody else on this campus
Yeah.
that's experiencing this, but
hmm
how did you get a hold of those type of people?
Yeah, so I think it was in the summer of 2022, I believe. And I just figured I was like, there needs to be community. I had started like thinking about wanting to take Arlo to like a baseball game because they have a
Right.
grassy area to sit at.
Yeah.
And I was already aware that you're allowed to take alcohol in there.
Right.
Students take alcohol in there and drink at the baseball game on campus. And so I like looked it up and I did some emailing and I was like, hi, I'm a student, like all of my friends. So at this time, I think I was in nursing school and it's kind of hard to backtrack and remember all the dates and
That's
time,
okay. Yeah.
But I was in nursing school and a group of my friends were like, hey, we're going to a baseball game tonight. You should come. Well, I was like, I've got Arlo. So
Right.
that's when I started feeling like more left out when I had to say
Absolutely.
no to things because I had a child. So
Yep.
I was like, let me just email like the athletic department and just
Yeah.
see if I can bring him. And they were like, no, you are not allowed to bring your child. However, you can go to the main gate and buy two regular tickets and sit in the normal seating. And I was like, I'm a student. I
Mm,
want to be able to do, like, I'm 21
yeah.
years old. I want to do student things.
Yeah.
So I wasn't able to go to that. And I was just really disheartened that you can bring alcohol in there, but you can't bring a year-old child in there.
Right.
So
So
that's when
that
I
lit a
started.
fire under you.
Right. So after that, I went on to the Facebook group for students and basically was like, I was determined at this point that I was going to find someone on campus that's in higher administration, make a meeting with them, tell them everything that Alabama has and does not have, compare it to other schools, and say do better, basically.
I freaking
So
love you.
yeah, so I went on there and I was like, basically, hi, I'm a student mom. My name is Emery. I have a son. If there's any other student moms or people that have been student moms, I want to hear what you could benefit from,
Right.
what you think needs to be added to the University of Alabama to make it more student mom friendly. And
Right.
from that, I got several comments, including from Mary, and it just lit up a community after that. So from that, I gathered ideas. I did make a meeting with someone in the Dean of Students department
Right.
that I will say was not well received.
Hmm.
Nothing ever came from it.
Right.
But my whole idea has been everybody, and pretty sure in the United States, knows that Alabama has resources.
Right.
UA has money and they have resources. And it really made me sad that none of those resources were for student moms. There was
Mm.
no on-campus family apartments. There a lot of places have that. There was no like dorm floors that are for student moms. A lot of places have that as well. I looked into it. Um, I was like, even parking, like a little parking
Right.
spot near the student center that's just for student moms. So when you have to
Right.
run to an hour-long meeting, you don't have to walk 15 minutes.
Right.
Um, Let us take our kids into like the baseball, basketball, and soccer games. I understand not
Right.
football. Football's crazy, but maybe the spring games. It
Right.
was just stuff like that that I just yearned to have for the student mom community that I had seen on Facebook was existent.
Right. Oh my gosh. I just love that you're such a shaker and mover and you saw an issue and you went for it and tried to solve it. And
hmm
that is just so admirable, truly. So nothing ever really came from those meetings that you had. Why do you think universities have, not really stepped up when it comes to this isolated population of student moms.
I think it's honestly that they see that it's not the majority. It doesn't
Mm,
add too much money to the campus and it just doesn't matter that much. I
mm,
think what matters is mostly athletics. So if it doesn't have to do with athletics, then it's just not a high priority. So
right, right,
I just think that they saw, oh, this is one chick reaching out to me telling me there's other student moms, but
right,
there's not a whole group of us coming and saying, hey, change it. So I just don't
right.
think that they wanted to do much from that.
Which is, one of the hardest things that we face at Baby Steps is trying to find statistics of how many
Hmm.
student moms, how many women get pregnant in an unplanned scenario on campus. We can't find those
Hmm.
statistics because the universities aren't tracking those things, and
No.
women aren't going, to the registrar's office and letting them know I'm dropping out because I'm pregnant and I need to move home,
Hmm.
or there are no resources here. I'm pregnant, so now I feel like I have to have an abortion. There
Yep.
are not those conversations are not happening on campus, which makes
Mm-mm.
it extremely hard to show the gap of services that exists among
Hmm.
universities.
Yeah.
But with students like you, oh my gosh, you're paving the way, to be able to step up and step out and say, I am a voice for all of those who have not been heard. Because the fact is, unplanned pregnancies are an epidemic in the United States, and they
Yes.
happen most likely among the 18 to 29-year-old age group, which is your
Hmm.
college students. So we
Yes.
know that they're happening on college campuses.
Hmm.
But it almost is like we have got to shine a light on each of these individual women and hope they have the bravery to step forward so that we can show
Yeah.
universities there's 20 women on your campus right now that we know of that are or were in an unplanned pregnancy situation
Hmm.
and are in need of services. And so if the universities are not able to step up, that is where Baby Steps has committed to filling in the gap, right? So if
Hmm.
this is not something that a university can or is willing to fund, we want to fund it through private donors so that this population doesn't have to struggle the way that you did.
Yes.
What do you
Hmm.
feel like were your biggest struggles as a student mom with no resources on campus?
I think it was just the lack of support.
Mm,
And like I said, like the isolation, it was the lack of being able to be a student. Like, yeah, I went to classes, but I didn't get to, unless I went and found a babysitter, which babysitters are expensive. You're in
mhm.
college, you're 20 years old, you don't really have an income. So unless you did that, like you don't get to experience the university that you're paying to attend. So I
Right.
think those were the biggest things that I just saw were like a lack. I didn't, and I also thought I was like, yeah, I am luckily in a situation to where Isaiah worked very hard so that we had everything that we needed. But I also know that that a lot of times doesn't happen. And like, so what in the
Right.
world are students that don't have that support?
Right.
What do they do? Like,
Hmm.
how do they manage? How do they make it to class if they also have to worry about daycare costs? What if they can't get diapers? Like, what if they're so isolated that like it leads to mental health issues? Like there's so many cascading effect that is not thought about.
Absolutely. And you navigated a lot of that without support. You made mention to kind of connecting with Mary. And for all of our listeners,
Hmm.
Mary is actually our hub director at the University of Alabama. And to be clear, we are trying to open our doors on Alabama's campus. We're currently in the funding process, really knowing that there's a need there. We're still connected with those 20 student moms, but there's not a whole lot we can offer them right now because the funding just isn't there yet. But how did you connect with Mary? What did that look like as far as the very tiny piece that Baby Steps was able to interact with you?
Yeah. So Mary was one of the ones that commented on my original Facebook post and basically was like, we need to talk. Let's talk. So we Facebook messaged for a little bit and then we met in person at a coffee shop. And so as a backtrack on how I knew about Baby Steps prior is because um, McKenna that works with Baby Steps
Yay.
National, I think,
Yes.
or at
Charlton.
Auburn's
Yes. Yep. Hmm.
Tarleton. Okay, I don't know what she goes by.
She
So
goes by both.
okay. So she and I went to church together in Dothan. And then I knew when she had her son, I saw that she was part of the Baby Steps at Auburn. And I
Yes.
just thought that was cool. And then a couple years later, or a year or so later, then I found out I was pregnant with Arlo. I reached out to her and
Mhm.
just for some support to have like a friend.
Right.
And then when it came time for when I started realizing the lack of resources, I remembered, oh, there's baby steps at Auburn. So I ended up calling her and I was like, please tell me everything about baby steps. And
Yeah.
this was prior to my Facebook post. I was like, I just want to know, like, what do y'all do? What's it about? So she told me
Yes.
all about it. I'm pretty sure I emailed like Baby Steps National and I
Okay.
was like, hi, this is me. And I want information on how you spread to other campuses, which I was very naive on how much goes into that. But I was just like, we need that here. So then when
Right.
Mary mentioned to me, I actually like know people at Baby Steps, and I like she basically told me she had a passion and thought that that was the next part of her life. And I was like,
Right.
no way. I was like, I was just talking to somebody about Baby Steps and how I wish I had that here.
Yeah.
And from there, we just kind of built this passion around Baby Steps, and that was just really cool to connect about. I mean, it was just it aligned so perfectly. So
I love
she is
that.
amazing.
She really is. And you've been very instrumental in being a face and a voice on Alabama's campus that this has happened to. Kind of like you were saying, when you went to the meetings with the university, it's one thing to be like one voice and say, this happened
Hmm.
to me. It's another thing for us as baby steps to say, there is a need on your campus, but yet not have any
Hmm.
connection to that need. And so
Right.
you've been able to really help us fill in the gap and say, here is a face and here is a name. All of y'all who
Hmm.
live in Tuscaloosa, like she went through this without any support. And if the need is so heavy on Auburn's campus, why would we think it would be any less on Alabama's campus?
Right.
Really, across any campus in the United
Yeah.
States, the need is very much there. And we just have had such a pleasure and been so grateful to work with you
Oh,
because you do have such an amazing story and voice and a commitment to seeing change on your alma mater's campus,
yes.
which is the next step forward for baby steps expansion wise. So
Right.
we really,
Thank you.
really hope we can get that funding in to open our doors and fully serve you because I can't imagine how your life as a college student would have changed had you had all the
Hmm.
resources that Baby Steps could have provided for you. So,
Definitely.
knowing what we do provide for women on Auburn's campus, how do you think you would have been impacted if we had a fully running hub in Tuscaloosa?
Oh, yeah. I just know that from the beginning, I would not have felt so clueless and alone.
Hmm.
Even to have someone, I don't know if I would have needed like the house and all that, but even to
Right.
have someone that was like, hey, this is what we're for, and we're here to hold your hand as people who are supporting you. Because like, especially those first, like I would say like 5 months were
Yes.
very trying for us. It was
Yes.
very difficult. And just to have a resource and be like, look, there's other student moms and they're doing this. Because when I found out, I was excited, but I was also like, what does my future look like? Like, am I going to be able to get a degree? Do I need to get a full-time job? I don't know. But to have someone be like, look, there are other student moms and we're here to support you and make sure that you can get your degree and parent your child. Like that would have been so huge. And I think that would have been taken a lot off of me mentally to have that support. Because I know that Baby Steps also has, it's the community aspect too.
Yes.
So just to have that and have the resources of the dinner nights just with other
Yes.
moms and kids would have been just life changing.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story, but sharing your passion to see change. Oh my gosh,
Yes.
you have no idea what that does to my heart to see,
Oh,
young student moms standing up for change and wanting to fill
yes.
that gap in today's world because there is a gap and we've identified it
Hmm.
and it's time for our world to do better now that we know that it
Yes.
exists.
It sure does. And we can make huge differences in student moms' lives. It can happen.
I love that. Well, thank you again, Emery. And for all of our listeners, go on and hop on our website. Take a look at all the ways that you can get involved with Baby Steps. If you're an Alabama fan, maybe that's where you want your money to go to help them open their doors. They are having a gala coming up as well. So stay tuned and sign up for our newsletters on babysteps.org. Thank you so much. Bye bye. Do you want to be a part of an organization that is the first of its kind to empower student moms? Your support can impact generations to come. Consider making a financial contribution at babysteps.org.